Okay, we're going to work with selection tools today, and you are going to be briefly introduced to layers. So the first thing I need you to do is download this file. We're going to be modifying this, so you can go ahead and save the image as, and I'll just put it in my downloads. I've already done that, so I can go ahead and open up Photoshop and open up the document, and we're going to deal with these. We started with these with using a couple of these brush tools. We're going to start with using these selection tools. First of all, I want you to notice that in Photoshop, anything with a little triangle has more than one tool behind it. So these are selection tools, and we also call these marching ants. So whatever is inside of here, we've selected. You can take a selection, you can invert a selection, and now everything that wasn't selected is selected, and vice versa. I'll grab an elliptical marquee tool. That just makes a circle. Now if you hold down on the shift key when you're dragging, it makes a perfect circle. And you can move the selection around once you have put the selection in place. So again, a shift key makes a perfect circle or perfect square if you've picked the rectangular, and you can move around the selection once you've made the selection. Now, if you've made a selection, I'll make a quick one, and you want to get rid of that selection, it's Command D, and D is for deselect, so you've deselected the selection. Now, as I explained, we're going to do some things with layers as well. So I'm over on my layers palette. Now this should be what you see all the time. So this is like, we call this a default palette in Photoshop. I can double click on this. Now, let me just do that one more time. Okay, so this is locked. If it's locked, there's some things I can't delete, backgrounds, and I can't make some changes. I want to make changes here, so I'm going to delete the lock by just double clicking and saying okay, and now the lock is gone. I'm gonna add a new layer because we're going to want to do some things with these selections. And you can see over here the one layer is over top of this layer. Well, this layer here, I'm just going to show you. If you ever see checkerboards means it's transparent. And as you can see in the side here, I can turn on layers and turn off layers. So if I was on this layer, and I'm going to ask you to do this, we're going to fill this with black. So we want this layer to be black and this layer to be the blocks. Then we can do our selections. So if I go to Edit, Fill, and notice again, this layer is active. I'm going to fill it with black. My screen goes black. Well, I can pull this down and put my blocks on top. So that's just what I've done. And now we're going to get busy with some selection tools here. I'm going to grab the elliptical marquee, and what we're going to do is we're going to cut out all this purple area here and just have a nice picture of blocks with a black background. So again, if I make my elliptical marquee and I say inverse my selection, and I'm on the right layer, make sure that we have our block selected, and I hit delete, well, there's what we have. And I don't really like this because look how harsh this is, and it cuts off the block. So we're going to show you some modifications you can make to the selections. Let's do Command Z to undo that, and we'll just start over. I'll go ahead and make my elliptical tool, put the selection like I did before, except this time I'd like to make the selection go around these blocks. So here's the trick here. If I hold down the shift key, notice that I got a little plus sign on my cursor, and now I can go ahead and add some shapes, some circles to make those blocks come in. I want to get rid of this area here, so I hold down the Option key. Look, I can kind of just slice into that. It's like taking a bite. And if I need to add some areas, just hold down the shift key and just drop those in like that, making kind of a mess here. But you can see you can make lots of different selection shapes. So I'll go ahead and trim this down a bit. All right, and it still has really sharp edges. So I'm going to show you guys how to come up here and make this nice and feathered. So what I'll do is let's go ahead and invert it right away. So select inverse. So we've selected the things that weren't selected. I'm going to click on this thing called Refine Edge. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to feather this so it has a nice soft look to it. And that looks pretty good. Okay, so there's that nice feather. I can say okay, and you can see how the selections change. It's really organic, and I'm on the right layer. You always have to make sure you're on the right layer, because if I'm down here, I'll be cutting out the black. I want to cut out the purple, and I hit delete, and now I have this nice faded out look with my blocks. So this is the end of video 1. Video 2, we're going to go in and we're going to select and we're going to duplicate some of these blocks so we can manipulate the image some more.